Paris, Chicago Public Schools is hoping to welcome back high school students for in-person learning starting this Monday, April 19th. But the Chicago Teachers Union is asking for a delay and says there is still disagreement with the school district on accommodations for medically vulnerable teachers and vaccine access for eligible students. Over the weekend, the union's House of Delegates voted to keep high school staffers fully remote starting on Wednesday unless more progress is made on a reopening agreement with CPS. Joining us with more is Sharkey, president of the Chicago Teachers Union. And Jesse, we should probably clarify, teachers are in the buildings today and tomorrow. We learned late today from CPS that 84.3% of teachers did report to those buildings today. But what would you say is the biggest sticking point right now between the union and the district?
That's Brandon. So that you're right about teachers being back. And the sticking point really has to do with the way high school reopening is being handled. It has to be built on safety, equity, and trust. And right now the city and the mayor and the schools are taking positions that don't make sense. You've got there's a new surge. The demographic that's driving that increase in transmission are precisely the group of people who they're talking about bringing back into high schools. It's young people. So in order to address that, there's a series of policies that we need to see happening, dealing with the way high school schedules work, dealing with a vaccination program for students, dealing with the ability for teachers who don't need to be in school to work remotely. Those are things that, to avoid a congregate setting, those are things that we think we need to have in order to make this plan make sense.
And Jesse, the Chicago Department of Public Health, though, have said that the community, the people where they are seeing that increase is actually 18 to 29-year-olds, not necessarily those under 18, and that they don't believe that that delay that you're seeking should be done. Do you disagree with the city on the fact or on that information that it's 18 and over where they're seeing that increase?
That's the way the demographic group is characterized, but I mean, it's young adults. And what the research shows us is that young adults don't tend to get as sick and are confident, move around, have a lot of mobility. Although we have had some tragic cases, like there was an 18-year-old at Simeon, a junior there, who died tragically. But those are the groups that are overconfident, that move around, and then go back and bring COVID back to their families. And we're very worried about that. I think epidemiologists agree about that, especially in light of the variants that are showing up that are both more contagious and more deadly. And we think there's a small number of things that we could be doing to address that. And right now we haven't seen those things being addressed. And so that's what our members are reacting to.
Now, in a statement today, CPS said, quote, "Tens of thousands of high school students and their families are counting on us to open high school classrooms in 1 week, and we are firmly committed to making that happen. Productive discussions with CTU continued throughout the weekend, and we have general alignment on a set of key topics, including safety protocols to keep students and staff safe and scheduling models that will be tailored to the needs of each school." Jesse, the words general alignment, would you say that's an accurate description of the status of negotiations?
Well, I wouldn't, because at this point we're down to cases. And let's take schedules. They mentioned it in that short statement. The idea is you got to keep few enough people in school at any given time so that it fits within the capacity of the school. We have some very large schools that are saying that kids should be back there, 4 days a week. Schools remote in all parts of the district on Wednesdays. That means like if you've got a lot of kids at the school trying to eat lunch together, and you don't have enough capacity in your lunchroom. We've got schools whose plan for lunch right now is have students eat outside. Well, Chicago, it snows in the winter, it rains in the spring, sometimes it snows in the spring, and if your plan for how to keep kids safe is having them eat outside, that's not a very good plan. So, we don't think that we have agreement on the scheduling situation in a number of schools.
Now, as outlined in the CTU reopening agreement from earlier this year, schools will return to fully remote learning if the city's average positivity rate does the following 3 things. It rises for 7 consecutive days, rises 15% each day compared to the days the week prior, or is at 10% or higher citywide on the 7th day. We know that Chicago is now hitting 2 of those 3 metrics, although we're still below that third one, the 10% overall threshold. And the union is asking for a week's delay. Jesse, what do you hope to accomplish, or what do you expect to know or happen in that time?
Well, we hope to get an agreement. You know, at the heart of what we're saying is that we have concerning set of measurements about what's going on with transmission, about the current surge. That underscores the need to have a safe set of protocols around schedules, around remote work. I mean, I'll give you another crazy example. In schools throughout the city, students are learning remotely on Wednesdays. That's the way the hybrid schedule works for the most part, a couple of exceptions. But teachers are told they have to go into school buildings in order to teach from school to teach remotely. I thought that point was to avoid congregate settings. So you've got clinicians going in to do that, to deliver clinical services remotely. And so, you know, we're asking the district to allow people who don't have students in person to work remotely. That seems like it's common sense. It seems like it's the kind of thing we should be able to get an agreement on. And if we can get agreement on those things, I think that's what addresses the question of, are we doing as much as needs to happen in order to deal with the troubling numbers and the surge that we're seeing?
And Jesse, it's been more than a year since high schoolers were in their class buildings, and we know that engagement can be a challenge, especially with older students. If delaying or if returning to school is delayed much longer, are you concerned about losing contact with more students?
I am concerned about it. And I think that the question of losing contact with students is at the heart of why we've been talking about trying to get the city and the mayor to offer a vaccination program to students who are age eligible and in the affected in ineligible communities. We think young people are actually going to be really important to a strategy for bringing in people who've been reluctant to get the vaccine or haven't had good access to vaccine. And because what's happening in our school communities is the huge majority in our working class core neighborhoods, in our Black and Latinx neighborhoods, people are voting with their feet and not signing up. In high schools, the sign up in those neighborhoods is like in the 20s for the most part, which means, you know, 70–80% of kids are coming back. We need those kids back. But in order to do that, we have to win trust of the families. And we think we've got really good relationships with young adults, with teenagers. Put them in a situation where we're offering vaccine to the age eligible kids, the 16, 17, 18-year-olds, and allow them to bring in their family members who are eligible for vaccine. That's like one of our most important proposals. And we think it could work to help get schools going now. We don't want to delay, but what we do want is we want the board to come up and the mayor to come up with positions that make sense.
And Jesse,
in a way that's safe.
We'll certainly be keeping an eye on this as you all continue to negotiate. Meantime, thank you so much, Jesse Sharkey, for joining us.
Thank you, Vince.